following is a love model that we can practice in our relationships to break the cycle of unmet and suppressed emotional needs. Implement this model in all of your interactions with others and apply it toward yourself and your parents. Practice it as a biofeedback mirror technique in all of your relationships and to combat all forms of conflict, including in the Cartman drama triangle. This model demonstrates how we can begin to meet these psychological needs for others and how we can model it to them in their interactions with us in turn. Implementing this model into our daily lives will enable each of us to conquer the emotional reactions and maladaptive responses that provide key insights into blind spots and dissociations. At the core, our behaviors are driven by two primary but polarizing human drives, which is love or fear. Therefore, our actions can be completely determined by our desire to love and be loved and our fear of not being able to love or be loved. This shows up as a psychological need of being heard, understood, and acknowledged, and ultimately feel authentically self-expressed. This love model gives us the ability to create that in our relationships and do our part in fulfilling the vital human need to love and be loved, which will in turn prevent us from perpetuating the cycle of unresolved emotional needs and conflict onto future generations. According to Katz and McNulty, 1994, this model can create a climate of warmth in social situations because it adapts reflective and extensive listening. It is helpful in conflict resolution and settling disputes between people, such as handling resistance or anger in others. This model was adapted from reflective listening, which is a strategy involved in client-centered therapy. We start with L for listen. Active soul-level listening implements reflective and extensive listening. Listen intensely and without judgment or pretenses. Practice deeply listening and hearing what others are saying and what they're not saying. Develop the art of listening to both conversations, the audible and inaudible one, by reflecting on what the speaker is saying, using perceptiveness and reading between the lines of what's being said. Listen respectfully without interruption and without anxiously waiting to reply. Effective communication involves effective listening skills that minimizes unnecessary misunderstanding and establishes clarity and rapport with others. Even if a person is speaking negatively or critically toward you, do not take it personal, but hear the message they are attempting to deliver and use it as constructive feedback and insight into the other person's perspective and feelings. The biggest communication problem is we do not listen to understand, we listen to reply. The second one is O for objectivity or objective observation. Objectivity is the state of being objective, just, unbiased, and not influenced by emotions or personal prejudices. We can listen to obtain information, understand, and learn. Listening is not just an audible task. It also requires reflection, obtaining information, gaining perspective, acknowledging, seeking to perceive and understand, or asking clarifying questions. Objective listening asks us to be a silent witness and encourages us to practice maintaining a state of balance and centeredness as opposed to reacting emotionally. Objective observation, then, is to witness without judgment or to become more aware of yours and the other person's consciousness. It means to notice or perceive something and register as being significant, to watch someone or something attentively, or to acknowledge. Observing another objectively also describes the art of reflective listening that consists of a step beyond what is normally thought of as listening. Hearing and understanding what the other person is communicating through words and body language to the best of your ability, responding to the other person by reflecting the thoughts and feelings you heard in his or her words, tone of voice, body posture, and gestures, according to Katz and McNulty. The third one is V, to validate. Everyone's perspective and personal story is valid because perception is our reality. Just as you have your own story, it lends valid reasons why you think and behave the way that you do, which is according to your beliefs and perspectives. This principle is as valid for you as it is for others. Even if you have differing perspectives, we all perceive life through our own distorted lenses due to inherited programming, limiting beliefs, and personal experiences that become our perception of reality. If a dispute arises between you and another person, Oftentimes, we will default to a primary reactive pattern described in the Cartman drama triangle, or one of the maladaptive emotional responses. To illustrate, a person may have misperceived or misunderstood your intention in a given situation. Consequently, they may come to you upset, blaming and accusing you of something, such as the persecutor. Your immediate reaction may be to defend and explain yourself or correct them, which would be the victim. Yet this is exactly how we carry out the oftentimes generational behavioral patterns and negative cycles and conflicts in our lives. This lesson will be repeated until we learn it and master it. This is where practicing the L.O.V.E model is so critical in maintaining our emotional balance and dismissing egoic reactions. It is up to you to break the cycle. If you are wanting to feel heard and explain the reasons for your behavior, then this would mean you are defaulting to the victim role and instead are meant to break from it by providing the solution in your effort to resolve the conflict and settle the dispute. In this case, while listening to the other person speak, even if it's an accusation toward you, don't try to fix, correct, or advise them otherwise. This will help to first diffuse any anger in the other, which will help to prevent a heated discussion from escalating, caused by both parties defaulting to reactive patterns. After the person's emotions have been diffused and feels heard and validated by following these steps, you may have your chance to present your case, if it is still necessary. Both parties need to be honored here. This is true for everyone since we all have our own lessons to learn and grow from. We're all at different stages in our emotional growth and development. Our perspective is our reality because everything is done according to our beliefs. We are literally living out our perceived reality. Oftentimes, we all just need someone to see our point of view and feel understood before we can gain a higher perspective. Once someone feels heard and validated for their feelings and perspective, freeing the trapped emotion, then they can move forward more effectively and won't continue to seek validation externally or destructively using maladaptive responses. However, the goal is to no longer require any validation outside of us because it's unnecessary. So just to illustrate another example, if you are being accused of something, just listen intently, just to sum up, and try to notice if there is any truth to what they're saying or if you can validate their perspective. Then you can respond and say, I can understand why you understood it that way or why you see it that way. Just validate the perspective, even if it is incorrect. The last step is E, to empathize. Empathy involves the highest level of emotional intelligence a person can attain. Attempt to feel what the other person is feeling, to empathize with them to better understand why she or he feels that way. Katz and McNulty explained that this allows the speaker to move to deeper levels of expression at his or her own pace and arrive at a solution to his or her own problem. If the individual has not already solved his or her own problem or dilemma and gained a higher perspective by processing their emotions through these steps, it might be appropriate to gently guide them if necessary. But it is not our place to teach, lead, correct, control, dictate, or place authority over others. Instead, we can model healthy behaviors and use positive reinforcement, which can assist the other in moving through the natural process. When we correct or judge others or attempt to solve their problem, that behavior is only a reflection of our own issues in which we impose upon another. The purpose of this model is to demonstrate love with compassion and acceptance, and by helping the person to free the trapped or unresolved emotion. When experiencing and expressing empathy toward another, we do so without emotionally or energetically taking on the other person's emotions or being emotionally responsible for them. We do not need to drown in our attempt to save another. When we take responsibility for another's emotions, we empathically carry that burden because we lack the boundaries of allowing him or her to take responsibility for his or her own emotional experiences. This brings us back to the Cartman drama triangle of attempting to save or rescue the other person because we want to feel needed or valuable, or when the victim actually takes on the emotions because they fear the persecutor. Therefore, it is our unconscious but selfish attempt to gain the reward of emotional security by saving or rescuing others from their pain because it comes from distorted and conditional love. Lastly, we want to empower. The best we can do for ourselves and others is to be mutually empowered by believing in each other, especially since everything is a manifestation of our beliefs. Realize that we all have our own complete answers within. That is empowerment at its best, and you are merely serving as an instrument to guide them to their innate wisdom. For example, you may be able to hone in on their specific strengths and reinforce your belief in their competency and ability to overcome a personal challenge or even a goal. Beyond this, we can guide, inspire, empower, or motivate, but the rest is left up to the other person. Everyone has their own wisdom and answers inside and must follow their internal guidance system on their own time and terms. We do not always have a mirror in front of us to see ourselves. Therefore, it is always easier to see the behaviors and shortcomings of others, and we can use this as a mirror into our own personal world. This love model allows us to serve as a mirror to the other person when eliminating our reactive responses. When we jump to blame or anger, which is persecutor behavior, defending or explaining, which is the victim archetype, or jumping in to solve the problem, which is the rescuer, we perpetuate the reactive drama cycles in our lives and rarely see the roles we are playing, which is our blind spots, and only see the reactive behaviors of others, which is the mirror. When we see others using maladaptive and emotional responses, recognize that it is always a call for love. As we practice this easy to remember love model, we dismiss our reactive and maladaptive responses with others, which is a critical step in achieving mastery over the self. We simultaneously heal and meet one another's needs by allowing each other to feel heard, validated, and understood, and fully self-expressed. Katz and McNulty explain that both parties will feel far more fulfilled when they are equally heard and may reinforce the practice of extending this principle toward others. This can both resolve difficulty and settle disputes, present and future, as well as engender a warm heart-to-heart connection with others. With this acronym, we can do our part to help spread love and model empathy to a world that is devoid of it, so we may prevent transferring unmet needs or emotional voids onto future generations moving forward.